everyone and welcome back to my workshop. I'm Deziel and today I'm doing with you the pattern of the skirt 108. It's a skirt with knife pleat on both princess line. As usual, the first thing is going to be to trace all around your block. This is my front block. Then if you have your princess line like me right on the block, you could just mark the bottom. If you didn't trace it yet, you should trace it on the block by measuring from the pivot to the center front and reporting the measurement at the bottom. After, you could trace from pivot to the reference. Now let's take a look at the drawing of the skirt 108. Like I said, it's knife pleat on the princess line, and we could say that it's for heavier fabric because the pleat or the excess of fabric doesn't go all the way up, but it does stop where you have the top stitch. And these are knife pleat because you could see the top stitch only on one side. That means the excess of fabric is only on one side of the line. For this style, I'm going to show you to do it from a plan. So we'll do the plan and we'll trace out the two pattern pieces. Now we could trace the dart and a straight line from the pivot to the bottom mark that we did. Here again, I'm going to use the hip level for the beginning of the pleat. So I'm going to trace 90 degrees from the center front, a line touching the hip notch. If you did watch my previous video where I show you how to do the princess line skirt, you might remember that when we do separate in two pieces, at the dart area, we usually curve both sides of the dart to make it softer. So what we do is we go halfway from the pivot to the waist. We go in 3 millimeter or 1/8 of an inch. You do a little reference on both sides. Then using your French curve, you're going to connect those 3 points. So around the notch area, the 3 millimeter and the pivot. You trace on both sides. Now for this pleat, I'm going to use exactly the same measurement I used for my last pleat with the inverted pleat at the center front. The measurement was 4 centimeter or 1.5 inches at the hip level, and I placed double at the bottom, so 8 centimeter or 3 inches. Then we could connect both of these reference points. Now for the point, I'm going to do exactly the same thing I did last time. So I'm going to take this measurement and place it on the princess line. Once it's done, you could trace your line connecting both of these points. Now what we're missing is the punch hole to say where to stop the sewing. If you remember, we place it 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch higher than the final seam and 3 millimeter or 1/8 of an inch inside the pleat. This extension we just did is the pleat. Now since the pleat is on the princess line, I'm going to need the information of the pleat on the other side of the princess line, punch hole and the extension on the other side. To do that, I'm going to fold on the princess line and I'm going to trace with the tracing wheel. And I'm going to need an assembling notch for this pleat. I'm going to put it on this extension line and remember not to center your notch. Then I'm going to fold my paper and report my notch on the other side. We're almost ready to retrace the two pieces, but before that, I'm going to ask you to put another notch at the pivot of the dart, a notch that will be on both pieces. So let's look at the two pieces. We have a center front piece that is starting at the center front and goes all the way to the extension. And we have the side panel that is starting at the side seam and goes all the way to this side of the extension. The center front piece will be cut on the fold of the fabric. Now I'm going to trace both of the grain line. As you could see, I decided to move my grain line a little further just to make sure there's no confusion with the style line or the pleat line. So it's my style 108 for both pieces. The first one is on fold, cut one time. The second one is gonna be cut one pair. Now we're ready to trace the first piece. So from the center front, the waist, the side of the dart. Don't forget your notches. We're going to go princess line, the extension, and come back to the center front. Now I'm just going to insist on the fact that I'm using this punch hole. Just remember that the punch holes should always be inside the pleat. When you do retrace, don't forget to indicate the princess line at the bottom on both pattern pieces, because we'll use that reference to make a notch on the pattern piece. That's it. I replace all my information. My two notches, I'm going to be missing one or half a notch because it's on the fold of the fabric. I'm going to place my half notch right at the center front and waist. Also, don't forget to circle your punch hole. We could now put the seam allowance and a hem at the bottom. Now we're going to cut all around. Again, I start with the bottom line, so I'm going to be able to fold on my hemline and finish my cutting. Now my pattern piece is finished, but I still have to put two more notches, one for the hem, only on one side, because you remember it's on the fold of the fabric, so just here. The other one, you remember I said to indicate the princess line, so you're going to report that level on the bottom line to make it a notch. Now we're going to trace the second piece, the side seam piece. Side seam waist, we're going to trace the other side of the dart and the extension all the way back to the side seam. Again, the punch hole that will be inside the back of the pleat. Then again, the princess line at the bottom, so we could have the notch. We're going to put the seam allowance and the hem at the bottom. Here, don't forget to put your hip notch that is on the block already. At the bottom, you're going to have the hem notch on both sides because it's cut one pair. And you're going to report, just like we did for the other piece, the princess line level on the bottom line. Again, I'm going to start by cutting the bottom. Then you fold on the hemline and we cut all around. We just finished the two pattern piece. Make sure you don't throw away your plan because we're going to use it for the next style that is going to be the 109. So we'll use the same plan. Now again, my drawing here, I did draw the top stitch towards the center front. That means the pleat or the back of the pleat are going towards the center front for this one. So to show you, I fold my pattern, align the seam line with the notch that you have at the bottom. So I just fold like that. And when the two pieces will be sewn together, the pleat will remain in that direction. So it will open just like that. Now this is a knif pleat. And the difference with the other pleat we've done until now, they were inverted or box pleat. Box pleat or inverted pleat are two knif pleat going in opposite direction. This is a single pleat, so it's a knif pleat. Box pleat have 3 notches to create the pleat or 3 reference. Knif pleat like this one is 2 reference or 2 notches. We have the 2 notches at the bottom and we have the 2 punch hole on top. That's it for today. Thanks to be there and I see you next time.